Oh, come in. Come in, come away in. How nice to see you. Ah, now, you're arriving at a nice time. I'm still reshelving, but I thought it might be fun to introduce you to some of my Tennysoniana. I've got a lot of Tennyson. Tennyson is unfashionable now, but a very great poet. Let's take this one. Look at this. This is just a gorgeous... this is a High Victorian 1859 luxurious edition of Tennyson's poems with very famous illustrations. So we'll look at those. And let's also take another. This is the Idylls of the King. Again with beautiful illustrations. Do come over and sit down. Have a seat. So I love Tennyson. He was a poet who was so great in his day that almost inevitably there had to be reaction against him. And when the 19th century ended and, you know, the sort of new things of the 20th, a whole generation of poets wanted to define themselves over against Tennyson. So he was eclipsed a bit, but now we need to think about him again. He was magnificent. T.S. Eliot said he had the finest ear for the sound of poetry of anyone, in any English poet, which is saying something. He could write searingly honest things about agony and doubt, as in his poem In Memoriam, but he also had this capacity to transport and enchant you. And like many people, my first encounter with Tennyson was The Lady of Shalott, which is just a wonderful poem. Let's just look at it here. This book was famous because the greatest artists of the day, people like here we are, here's William Holman Hunt doing an engraving of the Lady of Shalott there with weaving the web and the magic mirror and everything. And at the end of this passage of the Lady of Shalott, the other artist who illustrates it is Dante Gabriel Rossetti. There's Arthur looking down at the face of the Lady of Shalott. But he scarcely needs an illustrator or an engraver because he paints such extraordinary pictures in your own mind. Let's just hear the beginning of the first section of The Lady of Shalott, just for the sheer delight of the sound. I scarcely need the book again. I often think of this poem when I'm on my little boat, particularly the little canoe boat Willow, because you're so close to the water. And we're just at the field at the time now when I can see the fields of barley and rye around us here in Linton. So here we go, you know this. On either side the river lie long fields of barley and of rye that clothe the wold and meet the sky, and through the field the road runs by to many-towered Camelot. And up and down the people go, gazing where the lilies blow, round an island there below, the island of Shalott. Willows whiten, aspens quiver, little breezes dusk and shiver through the wave that runs forever by the island in the river, flowing down to Camelot. 4 grey walls and 4 grey towers overlook a space of flowers, and the silent isle embowers the Lady of Shalott. By the margin, willow veiled, slide the heavy barges, trailed by slow horses, and unhailed the shallop flitteth silken sailed down to towered Camelot. But who hath seen her wave her hand, or at the casement seen her stand, or is she known in all the land, the Lady of Shalott? Only the reaper, reaping early, in among the bearded barley, hear a song that echoes cheerly from the river winding clearly down to Camelot. And by the moon the reaper weary, piling sheaves in uplands airy, listening, whispers, "'Tis the fairy Lady of Shalott." Isn't that just astonishing poetry? I love that that heavy barges trailed by slow horses, and then the shallop flitteth silken sailed, skimming down to Camelot. You can see why Tennyson thought why Eliot thought Tennyson had that perfect ear. So one starts with those young enchantments in Tennyson, as one does also with poems like The Lotus Eaters. But then you progress to something of great maturity. The Idylls of the King, or the Idols of the King, which I have over here. We won't have time for that now, but just to give you a little glimpse. This is, not a scholarly book. This is a book that people read for sheer pleasure by the firelight on a winter evening. It's all beautifully laid out, isn't it, with the lovely borders. And then you get these whole page illustrations, the absolute high romantic ideal of the chivalrous knight and the lady. So we'll perhaps have a go at those at another time. But I confess, unashamedly, when I first started collecting Tennyson as a student in the 70s, it was a bit of a guilty pleasure, because you weren't supposed to like Tennyson. You were supposed to be advanced and progressive and not like the High Victorians. But I have a huge amount of time for the High Victorians, and especially Tennyson. So perhaps we'll have some more another time. Anyway, thanks for dropping by.